I'm here with Ken Bannister, the author of Lubrication Strategies and Tips, How to Kickstart Any Lubrication Program. Hi, Ken, and what inspired you to write this book, and what gaps in lubrication management knowledge do you hope to fill? Who is the target audience for this book?
That's a good starting question. That's good to see you again. And yes, I'm really excited about this book. I have the PLAF 4 book right now, the Plant Lubrication for Industrial Facilities, which is a pretty hefty book in all elements of lubrication. And what somebody called me up and asked, how do I turn the knowledge that's in that book into a true program? Because it's fine, I hear all of these are all elements of lubrication, but how do you physically turn that into a realistic program? So I thought, well, that's a good question. And then the person actually then stated, I need to kickstart my program because I have a program right now, but it's not working. How do I kickstart it? I thought, well, there's a perfect title for the book. So that's what came about. And I figured, okay, well, how do I break this down into a practical exercise in terms of how you understand what you have, what you need to do, and how do you go about focusing in on specific areas in terms of how you can make things better and improve your program, regardless of the state that your current program is. So what I did was I broke it down into basically 7 elements, the book, that need to be addressed to build a best practice program. And within those elements, I then put forward a number of strategies that can be utilized to actually develop that specific area. The first one is design. In terms of at the design level, how do I ensure that I've got the right lubrication system, the right approach to lubrication built into that piece of equipment before it gets delivered? And how do I speak to the engineering department in terms of what we need? The next one was on lubrication management. So how do I go about managing my lubrication program better in terms of shutdowns, for audits, key performance indicators, measurements, and failure scene investigation processes. So those are the types of different strategies that have come forth in terms of lubrication management. And then there's the other 5 areas are receiving and storage. How do you receive lubricants? How do you store them correctly? What strategies are involved to improve that part of the process? And the next one is lubricant application. How do I apply the lubricant so I get the right lubricant in the right place at the right time in the right amount? And then we have predictive testing. How do I go about testing my oils and greases to ensure that they're in good shape, if they need to be replaced, and so on and so forth. And one that's not addressed very much is how do I evolve a strategy if I'm lubricating outside, like in an outdoor plant? So weather strategies, especially for vehicles and stuff like that as well. So how does that affect, and what strategies do I need to be aware of and to improve my program in that regard? And finally, safety. So how do I work with the safety program to ensure that when I'm handling lubricants and we're passing them by using the automated equipment, that we're using it in a safe manner? So that's how I've structured the book. Basically, that's what was asked in the questions, and I think I've delivered on that. And I've given someone basically a roadmap in terms of how to build it with various strategies, depending on they can pick and choose what they need, and then go about and read that, and hopefully get fired up to improve their program as a result.
So I think it's fair to say that this would be a very practical book with a lot of practical knowledge, but many perceive lubrication as a simple and inexpensive aspect of maintenance requiring little to no training. Why do you think this misconception persists?
Well, that goes back to a lot. It goes back for hundreds of years. But realistically, everyone always, well, a grease gun is very simple. Seemingly, you just open and close, without a realization of how much pressure it develops or what you can do, how much pressure a seal holds on the bearing at the back of it. So there is a simplistic view towards lubrication, but I think that's drastically changing now, and lubricants are becoming far more sophisticated and more tailored to each individual machinery and to the type of environment that it works within. And it requires a lot more knowledge than it ever did before. And I think companies are now starting to realize that lubrication plays a massive part in their reliability of their equipment in terms of their uptime, and have now taken the stance that, well, that because there's a lot more been written about it, and there's a lot more understanding in the marketplace now in view of a lot of magazines out there. There's websites now all pushing in this direction now, and it's not a difficult thing to take on and to improve. And this book is giving you simple strategies that are very, very effective. And it's not difficult to put in a really good quality lubrication management program. It just takes a little bit of understanding and then just going ahead and putting it in place. It's not expensive.
Mm-hmm. And so you have over 3 decades of experience in this field. Can you share a real-world example where proper lubrication management led to significant cost savings or operational improvements?
Oh, well, I can tell you one. Okay, so I was doing I was to do some work for an electricity provider, so a power company, and they're stating that, well, we need people to adopt better use of electricity. So good lubrication practices will also significantly reduce your energy requirement. And then they asked, is there any good place we could start off with? So we chose a stamping plant. And purely just by looking at the lubrication delivery system that was involved, this was a 1,000-ton straight side press, a Minster press, and which had its own lubrication system on board. But it was, when I put an infrared camera onto the bearings, we found that the bearings were being lubricated with different amounts of lubricant, even though they were same size bearings across the main shaft. And so what we did is we balanced the system out. We basically calculated the requirement and calibrated the delivery system to give that requirement, and made sure that the oil was clean and that they had a cleanliness program in place for that. The filters were effective. And we got an 18% plus reduction in energy. I mean, that literally turned into literally tens of thousands of dollars. And another really good one was in a gas field in which we were having massive compressors that were pushing the gas along to the refinery aspect of it, the treatment plant. And every time they shut this plant down to do a changeover of lubricant, they would shut it down for basically 4 to 6 days. Well, the offset of that is that the downtime, they're not processing, they're not making money. So to shut it down for 4 days on an annual basis, and what we found is that they're using the incorrect lubricant for this compressor, and they're using a non-standard lubricant. And by changing the lubricant to the correct one, we were able to take them to a 3-year replacement strategy with a cleanliness approach to it, where they would have a kidney loop system to clean the lubricant, and then those 2 downtimes, which gave them 2 more weeks production, with like 8 or 9 of these stations, gave them literally tens of millions of dollars over the lifetime of the plant in terms of energy reduction. In terms of changing the lubricant out and in terms of uptime. Simple little things like that in terms of doing an oil change at the right time based on the oil requirement, or utilizing the correct lubricant, it can make major differences. Calibration of your equipment can make major differences. And again, this lubricant application is right in there, and talking about lubrication management. And so those are part of the strategies that are built into the book. The book is not a very big book, but it's very succinct. So you can read it and instantly understand it and say, I can now apply that.
Speaking about that, so it's to kickstart your lubrication program, and it even includes a lubrication failure checklist, right? So it's a good place to start with your lubrication strategy. And then what would you recommend to the readers to explore next if they want to go more in depth? Are there any other materials?
Well, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about a book. because we have an encyclopedic reference out there called the Plant Lubrication for Industrial Facilities, which is now in its fourth edition and is selling very well. And that, of course, will give you more insight into what actually happens with lubricants and with the delivery systems, how you design them, and those aspects there. And so that would be a good book to be a reference. And of course, coming up soon is the Lubripedia book, which has 1,001 references of everything that's lubrication. And that's meant as a companion book, which will give you a quick overview of all the elements involved with lubrication, and so you get some reasonable understanding of what everything is. So they all work together as a complete set. Unfortunately, Rivers is the publishers for all three. So I think we've got it all covered, or I've tried to get it all covered, so everyone out there can get a fair chance and put in a decent lubrication management program as a result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Do you want to add anything, like any key takeaway or anything to add?
Well, all I'll say is that lubrication matters, and it makes a huge difference in many different areas for every company, because anything that moves has to be lubricated, and there's lots of moving parts in every industry.
Okay, yeah, that's great. That's a great takeaway. I will link the book below and where you can order it. And thank you so much, Ken.
Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it.